Cruise news time, and well, look, Royal just will not let Carnival get one up on them. I think Royal has punked Carnival. That plus Carnival is coming out with a big change that I think some people will not like, and we may have a new candidate for a cruiser that should be banned. That plus a whole lot more. Cruise news and my views. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to La Lido Loca. I'm your host, Tony, here to talk you through everything going on in cruising. Like I said, cruise news and views. It's for your face. For your face on the 8th of May, 2025. And let's talk about this. So, Grand Bahamas is where the cruise port Freeport is. And well, just to be as blunt and honest as possible, that cruise port sucks. There's really not a lot to do there unless you take an excursion. You get off at that cruise port, there's a Senior Frogs, there's like a straw market. You're really not excited to see Freeport, Bahamas on your cruise itinerary. Well, a big announcement came out, I guess it was last year, that Carnival is going to build their new private island destination, Celebration Key, on Grand Bahama Island. It's a secluded part of Grand Bahama. It's about 20 minutes from the cruise port. Carnival's going to have their own pier there so that they can take their big cruise ships in. It's supposed to be really nice. It's opening up this summer, and I see this as Carnival's move to compete directly with Royal Caribbean's Perfect Day at Coco Cay. I think it would be a challenge to argue that Royal Caribbean doesn't have the best private island offering down there in the Bahamas. There's some great places down there across all of the cruise lines. But Perfect Day at Coco Cay really is a nice implementation of the private island. And to me, Celebration Key from Carnival really seemed like this was going to be the next thing. And well, interestingly, Royal, not good enough to leave good enough alone, said, yeah, it'd be cool if we had something there on Grand Bahama. They purchased a 40-acre resort that has been closed down for a few years. This is the Xanadu Beach Resort, and they're going to make their own play on Grand Bahama. So look, that's the way the cruise, this is the thing that excites me about the cruising business. I've always called it the chicken sandwich phenomena. I worked in fast food when I was really young, like many of us do, but I was also in like management for Burger King, that kind of thing. And it was always this interesting look at like when one company got a certain thing, then another person would get it. If you think about like when Popeyes recently had that big chunky crispy chicken sandwich, then everybody tried the big chunky crispy sandwich, like KFC and Burger King got it and all that stuff. So to me, it's a chicken sandwich phenomena, and it plays out in all kinds of industry. Certainly it plays out in the cruise industry. It's so funny that right when Carnival is getting ready to open up Celebration Key and celebrate the fact that they have a big presence on Grand Bahama, which many would consider not a great place to stop on your cruise, Royal Caribbean's like, well, hold my beer, we can do that too. So I think they spent like $340 million just to acquire the resort. And of course, they're really good at developing stuff. They're also developing a private area right there in Nassau, right where you can see it from the cruise ship. So Royal Caribbean, Carnival, Norwegian, MSC, all of the major cruise companies, Disney, they recognize the fact that getting on a cruise ship in Florida and going down to the Bahamas and not really even interacting with the places that you're going, but just going to a manufactured private beach adventure is good enough for a lot of people's cruise vacation. And certainly these companies are investing a lot of money to make that a reality for people. But yeah, sometimes this battle between Royal and Carnival is a wild thing. And I feel like Royal is trying to steal some of Carnival's thunder. What do you think? Interesting stuff. I don't know about you, but I am tired of spam texts, spam emails, and spam phone calls. And I know the reason I get them is because I've supplied my personal data to some sort of internet service that I wanted to use. I consented to having my data out there. And when you give that consent, your data is collected, stored in data warehouses, and then bought and sold by data brokers, sold to people search engines, and sold to employment agencies, and sold to anybody that's looking for data about you. Even sometimes hackers get a hold of your data. But the cool thing is your data does not have to live in those data warehouses. You can request to have it removed. The challenge is, who are these data brokers and how do I get to their data in the data warehouses? Well, that's why I'm thankful for the sponsor of today's episode, Incogni. Incogni is a service that works on your behalf to get your sensitive data removed from data brokers, from data warehouses. 3 simple steps. You sign up for Incogni, you authorize Incogni to work on your behalf, and then you sit back and let them interface with the data brokers to get your data out of there. To date, over 200 data brokers have been contacted on my behalf and data has been removed. Look, you can try Incogni for yourself, get your data off the internet for a discounted price. Scan the QR that's on the screen or go to www.incogni.com/LaLitoLoca. Use the code LaLitoLoca to get 60% off of your annual Incogni subscription. You want to use the internet, but you don't want your data out there. Let Incogni help you out. Thank you, Incogni, for sponsoring today's episode. Cruise news story number 2, and very interesting stats coming out from the UK regards to cruising. CLIA has released a report, Cruise Line International Association. They have released a report saying that in 2024, that the UK reached a record amount of passengers sailing, 2.4 million. It's up about 5% from 2023. That's good. They hit a new record. But the interesting statistic for me is the fact that UK cruisers are getting younger. The average age of a UK cruiser in 2019, 57. And then that fell to 54.3 in 2024. And on the surface, that shift doesn't look very dramatic, but it does mean that younger cruisers are getting on cruise ships in the UK. And I think the cruise industry would look at a statistic like this as a good indicator of the viability of cruising going forward. Eventually, older hardcore cruisers are going to age out. They're going to not be able to cruise anymore, but they're going to pass away, that kind of thing. And so this is a weird industry in the fact that you got to constantly be bringing in new, younger people to accommodate for the people that you're losing. And that's weird. I wonder what I'm sure there's a lot of industries that have to think about their passengers dying, which is a bizarre thing. But certainly that's true in cruising, and there in the UK, we're seeing that it's the same in the US. I think we're skewing younger. I think the average age of the cruiser in the US is like mid 40s, 48, 49, that kind of thing. So interesting statistics about the age of cruising. And while we're in the UK, there continues to be more updates daily about the passenger that got killed on the MSC Virtuosa. This is a wild story. They released the name and photographs of the man who passed away. His name was James Mesham, 60-year-old grandfather, and apparently he ran some sort of stunt show. I was reading an article over here on the Mirror, and it cites an anonymous source who was on the cruise ship. 2-day cruise. There were a lot of stag and hen parties, bachelorette parties. And there's a quote from a 21-year-old who did not want to be named, but they're calling Claire, that said almost immediately when they got on this cruise ship, people started fighting each other. A lot of drinking, a lot of fighting, just a lot of people going at it. And another weird tie-in for me that I saw in another article is I'm a big fan of the reality show, The Traitors. There's a US version that has celebrities, and there's a UK version that just has regular everyday people. And one of the better players of the UK version is this guy named Harry, and apparently he was on the cruise. Any Traitor fans out there? This whole incident continues to be investigated. As I mentioned yesterday, the suspect that was held under suspicion of murder was able to post bond, and he's been released from custody. But all we have now is we know who the victim is. So again, a terrible time for that person's friends and family. And all the accounts are saying he was a real solid guy, but man. All right, let me hit you with just a quick reminder. CDC is saying that there's possibly a new, stronger norovirus strain on land and possibly at sea. They have released reports of 3 cruise ships over the last 6 weeks that have struggled with norovirus. We'll hit them real quick. Holland America Line's MS Rotterdam had an outbreak. Holland America Line's MS Zuiderdam had an outbreak. And the National Geographic Sea Lion also reporting an outbreak of the norovirus. Again, we don't know what strain it is or anything like that, but we have seen, even here at the beginning of 2025, a lot more of these norovirus reports. So make sure when you're on cruise ships that you're washing your hands, that you're being very careful around communal areas, communal touch points. Hand washing is really the key. They say sanitizer doesn't necessarily knock out the norovirus. So washy, wishy-washy. Now I got to tell you about a big change that Carnival Cruise Line is making that I'm pretty sure some people aren't going to be happy with, but before I do that, I need a break. I need a dance break. Get up. Get up. There you go. Dance break. Dance break. Did you get up? Did you get up? Man, okay, Carnival making a change to their shore excursion process. If you've ever been on a Carnival cruise and you've taken a shore excursion, one of the stress points if you book an excursion on the cruise ship is waiting for that ticket to show up. Most of the time, if you pre-book your excursions, the tickets will be in your cabin on the very first day of your cruise. But say on day 2, you want to take an excursion on day 4, there's a little bit of a stress window where is the ticket going to show up? I know more than once I've gone back to ShoreX going, I haven't got the ticket. And they're like, we haven't delivered them yet. And I'm like, oh. So it's an interesting thing. And then the morning of the excursion, you got to make sure that you got the ticket, all that kind of thing. Well, all of that stress is apparently going away as Carnival has announced that they're going to be going all digital on their shore excursion process. That means when you book your excursion, the tickets will show up on your telephone, going to show up on the Hub app. And then you'll just go down to ShoreX or wherever you're supposed to meet at for your excursion, and you will use the digital ticket on your mobile device to go on shore excursion. This is supposed to streamline the process, of course, take paper completely out of the process. And I can certainly see why they would do it. It's got to be more efficient to deliver those tickets to the Hub app than have to pass out all these paper tickets and deal with all these paper tickets. But one thing I know for sure about Carnival cruisers is not all of them like to use digital processes. I remember when they removed the paper menus from the main dining room, there was a good amount of people that lost their mind a little bit. I think I'm okay with the digital process. I think it will be probably easier to manage, and I'm savvy enough with my smartphone that I think it'll work as long as it works. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I believe they've tested it on one ship already. I've never dealt with it so far. Have you been on a Carnival ship where they've gone all digital? What do you think about this change? Do you think it's good, bad? Are you indifferent to it? Leave a comment below. Now, let's talk about a cruiser that some are saying should be banned, banished for life from cruise ships. We've talked about the seat saver in the theater. You send your little Nana down there by herself, little frail Nana, to save 14 seats for your whole family. And 5 minutes before showtime, she's got, both of her shoes off, her big granny brassiere off. She's got her pocketbook all kind of laid out on the bench seats there, trying to, oh, my family's coming. And then inevitably somebody grabs Granny's brassiere and says, look, you can't save a seat with a brassiere, Granny. Nice brassiere, but you can't save a seat with it. Some people say that Granny should be banned. Then other people say that anybody that, is a chair hog that brings their personal belongings down at 5 a.m. for the premium spot by the pool. And, they got their latest, John Grisham novel there trying to hold their seat. They're saying that those people should be banned because, they're not showing back up for 4 hours. Well, check this picture out here. Some people on Reddit are suggesting that the rail saver should be banned. This is pretty subtle. I had to look at this picture a couple times, but notice the lady's in she's in a wide stance, and then there's something in between her and what's possibly one of her relatives there. There might be something good going on in the atrium, and she wants to make sure that everybody can see. Look. If you guys want to go see a show or something, everybody go together. I think no shame on anybody that's got the gumption to try to save spots for stuff. But this is one of those circumstances, please don't get in a fight, anything like that. But it's one of those circumstances that if you show up in the theater and somebody's butt's not in the seat and it's close to theater time, that seat's for free taking. That's my opinion on it. And unfortunately, you probably will get into some sort of verbal altercation, but please don't put your family in weird situations trying to save stuff. Just everybody go together. I know it's not always possible, but Yeah, what do you think? Should the rail saver be banned? And that is the big question for today. If you had the ability to ban any cruiser, who would you ban? I've left some interesting choices in the first comment below. Please participate in the show. Big thanks again to Incogni for sponsoring today's episode. If you haven't seen this cruise video, make sure you check that out next. And man, we hit 280,000 subscribers. Help us get to 300,000. Hit the subscribe button. It's Tony for La Lido Loca. Until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.